Hello, fellow panarchists and relationalists. Today I'm going to be addressing a perennial question, and that question is whether or not we need government. Once upon a time, I would have stated that we need to abolish government immediately, in full, in totality. It needs to be culled from the face of the planet, because government is based on the expropriation of wealth of the population, the subjugation, the torment, and the mental destitution of the population. Now, the reality is that's all still true, but as I have upgraded my thinking, I've come to the realization that some people want that. Some people believe they need to be controlled and coerced, or that they need to have someone telling them how to run their lives because they don't have the internal resources or the wherewithal to manage their lives for themselves, to resolve disputes for themselves, to leverage the market to figure out what to buy, to understand what their needs are, and how to spend their resources. So this is the idea I've been talking about, right? This notion of panarchy. Aside from being the philosophy of non-territorial exit, or being able to live anywhere you want and to engage in whatever kind of governance you want, it also means that if people want to have government rather than governance, they can certainly do that. The key here is don't enforce your individualized moral tenets onto other people, right? If somebody wants to live under the aegis of another form of government or governance, you should let them. If they don't want to have any kind of government or governance at all, they should be allowed to do that. Of course, there will be issues in society that cause problems to arise as a result of this panarchic environment. But the solution to that is really easy. It's localize everything. Allow individuals on a local level, wherever they live, to resolve those problems. Allow people to make contracts and engage in dispute resolution of their own volition. One of my biggest critiques of the idea of the nation state, in terms of it having a territorial monopoly on force over a particular region, is that there's this idea of crimes against a state. See, the reality is there's no such thing as a state other than an abstraction or some metaphor for that group of people, right? There can't be crimes against a group of people in terms of what happens on a localized level, right? If you steal from someone, you stole from an individual, you didn't steal from the state. If you murder someone, you didn't murder the state, you murdered an individual. So there's no such thing as crimes against the state. That is a conception that came out of the wrong-headed idea that there needs to be some territorial monopoly on force against individuals. Now, one of the side ideas that I want to discuss as part of this video on whether government is needed or not is the idea of cosmopolitanism. Cosmopolitanism. I might have mentioned that in previous talks. It's just this notion that we all belong to the world. Ultimately, we're all citizens. We're all humans of the world. And as a result of that, a myriad of different types of governance models could emerge, and different kinds of contracts could emerge that allows people to live in accordance with their own values and with other people of their own volition. Now, one of the beautiful things that happens as a result of this idea, if we were to embrace it, is what Thich Nhat Hanh called interbeing. He's the Vietnamese Buddhist monk and philosopher. He had this idea of interbeing, which is this idea that we're living with other people in a more compassionate, more connected way because we have embraced the plurality and the heterogeneous nature of the human enterprise. And that is an amazing concept to me, because I think one of the ways that we help resolve some of the most pressing problems in the world, or what John Vervaeke called the meaning crisis, which is this crisis of internal awareness of the self, the mental health epidemic, the problems people have relating to others, all the relational issues, ultimately result because we lack interbeing. And I don't want to underplay Vervaeke's ideas or the complexity of the problem space that's involved in causing this meaning crisis. But I do think when we all live, to use Jeremy Bentham's term, under a panopticon, under a giant control apparatus that perverts our deep inner selves. It perverts and corrupts the way that we relate to others because we're forced into this lifestyle of division where we're constantly politicking and bickering with other people. To hearken back to the title of this, so do we need government? No, we don't need giant territorial monopolies that oversee and coerce humanity, because it destroys our interbeing interaction with other humans. It rends apart our ability to relate and to engage on a compassionate wavelength with other human beings. So cosmopolitanism is the idea that we belong to the world and that we can have shared understanding with any kind of human being so long as the divisive process has not emerged. And this is what the panarchist wants. It's what the cosmopolitan wants. And it's just of utmost importance. We've got to remember that topic, interbeing. Now, in the next series of videos, I'm also going to get into this concept that is an overarching concept, in my opinion, referred to as relational humanity. And relational humanity speaks to our nature of as humans as emotional beings who really desire to have relationships with other people. And in order to really ramp up and gear up this type of connectivity, we're going to have to think seriously about the way that we view social management, social governance, and the quote-unquote social contract. In its current state, this has indeed led to most of these crises. It has certainly exacerbated the meaning crisis. I do think there is a lot of other causes to that, especially deep reliance on technology, certain fears about technological process overtaking people, and people not feeling like they're losing touch with reality, with themselves. I think that's certainly a part of it. But again, living under a nation state, living under the apparatus of control only intensifies and amplifies a person's sense of depersonalization or derealization. So I think where we have to move as a species is toward more cosmopolitanism, toward more understanding that there are other people and that those other people will more than often not share our values, not share our views, but we have to stop attempting to enforce those values on other people. We have to stop trying to coerce people to engage with us in that manner. We have to give people the option to choose how they want to live. And I think that this not only allows us to abandon the concept of the totalism of the nation state, but it allows us to embrace the next wave of human maturation and human development in terms of the way that we organize societies. And I think we're in this process right now. I think it's unfolding right in front of us, not only through technological advancement, but what's occurring as a result of the meaning crisis. And I really recommend you guys go check out John Vervaeke's work. The title, I believe, is called Awakening to the Meaning Crisis on YouTube, and it's a long series of videos that he did that expresses this. But one of the things that he talks about is that there are more and more people becoming interested in things like transcendental meditation, the use of psychedelics, introspection and introflection, and people just trying to find ways to improve their overall emotional depth, their connection with other humans, and ultimately their place in the world. What does life mean to them? And I know that I branched out a lot in this discussion, but I want to bring it back one more time to the idea that the total domineering government apparatus is not serving us as humans. It may serve some people in some communities, and that may be what they need for now, but I think a lot of people, because they're waking up to the meaning crisis, are also starting to realize that the system just causes division, it causes psychological destruction, and causes people ultimately to suffer, and it leads to this vicious cycle that continuously feeds into the meaning crisis. So my solution, or at least a part of the solution, is to embrace panarchy, it's to embrace cosmopolitanism, and it's to quit and stop all the politicking. We don't have to be a politicking species. That's not something we have to do, and I don't think very many people have asked the question, do we have to constantly be arguing over who is going to hold the ring of power, over what politician is going to get elected? We don't have to live that way, right? I think a lot of people take the nation state and the politicking that comes along with it for granted. So yes, we absolutely abandon the nation state as a apparatus of total control over all of civilization, but we localize individual perspectives, and if some people still want that, we give it to them, but they have to understand that in order to share in joint compassion and to end the politicking, they have to allow others like me and a lot of you guys, they have to allow us to live and engage in whatever kind of social contract, whatever kind of actual contract, or whatever kind of governance mechanism we want to live under. We should have the ability to do that without going places. This is ultimately what cosmopolitanism and panarchism embraces. Appreciate you guys. Continue to subscribe to me if you believe that I added value, and continue to check my website out at sterlingluhan.com. I'm going to continue to make these videos, and we're going to start getting into what I call, again, relational humanity and relational governance, and how we can leverage our technologies to bolster or to boost and amplify our inherent desire for more meaning and our need to connect deeply with other people. Cheers, guys.